Welcome back to Orange Chat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, I tried making this into an actual video, not a live stream, and it just wasn't working. So, I figured I would actually cover it on here. Sam Witwer, everybody knows that he gave his honest thoughts on Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi. So then I'm like, okay, yeah, the guy, I get what he's saying. And he's actually right. Johnson didn't do his homework. But that's not the thing that I actually want to discuss today. Today, I want to discuss what he said near the end of what he was saying, his conclusive statement, or his concluding statements. The thing that you have to do these days, if you want Star Wars to continue, is you have to accept that other people are going to have their own thesis about Star Wars. And you may not agree with it. It's an interesting statement. But Star Wars does not continue if these people have their shot. That part we're not going to get into because I honestly think that might be a typo. But here's the thing, folks. Sam, if you ever see this on the playback, if you ever see this whenever, here's the thing. What I am hearing when you say that what I just read was basically people got to accept that when continuing a legacy as sacred as Star Wars, they're going to have to accept that there might be content that is not favorable. That is true. But the whole problem with this whole thing about Disney Star Wars that has people upset, that has fans that have been fans of Star Wars since almost birth, like me. I mean, I've lived, eaten, and breathed Star Wars for 30. I'm 35 now, so 33 years. I saw Star Wars for the first time when I was 2 years old, back in 1987, 10 years after it came out. Almost 10 years. 9.5 or less. The point is, I loved Star Wars back then. I love Star Wars now, but I do not love Disney Star Wars. Because what Disney Star Wars did was disrespect the creator of Star Wars. I don't know if you honestly feel that way, and if you don't, that's fine. But here's the thing, Sam. I am not going to accept that Star Wars, or people are going to disagree with Star Wars. I mean, I'll accept that, but I'm not going to accept, basically, you're going to have to deal with some bad content if you want to continue a legacy. I've shunned Episode 8. I see it as non-existent because of how bad it was and because of what Rian Johnson did afterward. He went onto Twitter when people offered legitimate criticism about the throne room's scene and the disappearing knife. And he's like, well, you know what? You can criticize my dick. I'm sorry. I would have fired him if I had known he would say something like that. If I would have known before hiring him that Rian Johnson cared nothing about Star Wars, I would not have hired him. You see, the major mistake that Disney made was that they thought that if we're going to make these movies into 3 movies and people are just going to automatically like them because it's Star Wars. What they didn't understand was that we already loved Star Wars to the point that we have developed our own thoughts, fan fictions, but we understood that the EU Legends, the story arcs that Disney has been cherry picking from even though they killed it, thinking that we'll automatically like it because they took from it. What they don't realize is they divided Star Wars fans to the point many of us will not ever embrace Disney Star Wars. Now, I have often said Rogue One is the one thing I like about Disney Star Wars. And it's true. It is the only thing I like about Disney Star Wars. I like the Clone Wars, but that wasn't Disney Star Wars. Disney had a hand in its final season, yes. But it still feels separate, except for the four episodes in the middle with the Martez sisters. You see, if you want us to accept bad content so that the Star Wars content can continue and the legacy can continue, you're basically asking us to accept cancer in order for others to live. If I was in charge of continuing the legacy that George Lucas had given over to Disney in hopes that it would be respected and continue right, I would have brought him in as a creative consultant. I would have used the treatments that I purchased for $1.5 billion. And I would have said, okay, let's see what we can do with these. And I would have come up with, or I would have looked at the treatments, would have looked them over, and I would have said, okay, what can we do with these to make them shine on screen? You see, that's the beauty of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, when George Lucas created this. So this is something that Sam Witwer, you should automatically know. If you have worked with George Lucas and Dave Filoni and them, you should know this, what I'm about to say. And what I'm about to say is this. George Lucas planned these movies out before he even made them. He had the story in his head. He had these things. He knew that they couldn't be one movie, so he decided to split them up into 3 movies of each. His original concept of Star Wars, he realized he couldn't do, so he shelved the prequels. How you doing, Riot? It's good to see you. There we go. It's good to see you. Now, I should also turn on my banners. But yeah, folks, basically, Lucas had an idea of what he wanted before he made the movies. He planned them out. He realized he couldn't get all of it in one movie, so he made 3. And that is part of the Lucas formula. You plan your stuff out. This is actual common sense. Plan it out. Divvy it up into 3 equal pieces and tell the story you want to tell. Disney did not do that. What Disney did was, oh, these are his treatments? Fuck them. That's what they did. In a nutshell. They took his treatments and they discarded them. One director for all 3. Yes, Riot, I believe you are right. I think Disney would have done better if they had planned it out with one director for all 3. Yes, you are absolutely right. They would have done better like that. What they tried to do was the original trilogy formula, 3 separate directors. How you doing, Brian? Good to see you. Now, Jeff B, good to see you. everything is okay right now. I'm still in New York State. Let's just say that. But right now, for those of you guys just joining, I'm talking about one thing that Sam Witwer said, basically. If you want Star Wars to continue, and I'm paraphrasing, you got to accept that people are going to have a difference of opinion. Well, the way I have perceived that is you're having, or you got to deal with some bad content in order for the content to continue and get better. That's not how, or that's not true. You don't have to do that. Basically, what you got to do is vet each person you want, or the people you have in mind, to continue the story. You know, as if you were going to a job interview. I don't know if they do job interviews anymore, but back when I was younger, they did. And they would sit you down, ask you all sorts of questions. Well, if I was dealing with somebody, like if I had to continue from episode 7, doing episode 8, I would have sat Rian Johnson down and I would have asked, what are your plans? He would have pitched his episode 8, and I would have said, that's not Luke Skywalker. I'm sorry, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a story that Luke is going to be central in, and not just be this crabby old hermit. Not somebody who would turn away from his twin sister and in her most dire need. We would not, or he would not be like that. And even Sam Witwer explained that. That is not Luke Skywalker, basically. I'm not going to say what he exactly said, but basically, he basically said, yeah, I know I just said basically. He said that was a polar opposite Luke. Now, I would tell him that's not what we're looking for, and he's like, well, that's my vision of it, and I'd be like, okay, that's your vision. It's not our vision. That's not what's going. We're looking for somebody to spread or to help do our vision, which is the 3 treatments, or to continue the story that JJ, because we're going from episode 7. We want a story that is hopeful, not dreadful. So I would have said, thank you for your time, but we are going to seek someone else. And that would have been the end of Rian Johnson's shit. Now, he probably would have taken to Twitter, because Rian Johnson, for all intents and purposes, is a very spiteful individual. He told people to basically criticize his dick on Twitter. That's out there, folks. He's called people man babies. Other employees of Lucasfilm has done the same. Kathleen Kennedy has lied to people, recorded lying to people. She was in that interview with George Lucas when he was saying that we have to respect these characters that George has made. Except that she never did. She completely disrespected them. So the point, folks, that I am making is, if you are going to continue a legacy like Star Wars, where millions of people, literally millions, possibly tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of people, love and find sacred to them, you are going to want to plan it out and have it over years. Now, they say, or now Disney was basically saying, we can't have these every 3 years. Or every whatever years. 77, 80, 83. Why not? Why not? Because here's the thing. By doing it that formula, you are giving yourself the space needed in between each movie to fix and fine-tune what you are doing. Still think Hamill could have said no to parts of the script or ruined script. He did. He argued during the production, Jeff B. He argued during the production of episode 8, saying this is not what Luke would do. He raised concerns with Rian Johnson. He said, or he told him, right during the damn scene where he's about to walk out to face the First Order and C-3PO's there, Rian had him walking out, not even acknowledging somebody who's been in Luke's life for decades. And it's like, seriously? He's like, that's not what Luke would do. Luke would have acknowledged C-3PO. He's like, well, fine, do what you do. Now, I would have not, or if it was up to me, episode 8 would never have been made. But because it has been, hindsight's 2020, folks. Hindsight is 2020. So we're going to have to deal with that abomination. Now, we don't have to accept anything that Disney does. We are able to make up our own minds. We are able to keep with Legends. Now, it is sad that Legends won't be continued, but they still tell great stories. But all I'm saying is that with all the lessons we have learned because of the failures of Disney, if there ever was a chance to do it again, I'm pretty sure we would do it better. Now, Sam Witwer's words, basically, the ones that I had said earlier, where you got to accept that there's going to be people with difference of opinion and yada yada. It's true. You're going to have to accept that. There are people with differences of opinion. That's what the fandom menace is based on. Its core ideal is we all agree to disagree if we disagree. But we can still remain civil. And with those disagreements, hopefully something better can come out of it. You can always find common ground. But when it comes to things like Star Wars, you want to plan it out. You don't want to do what Disney did and say, or make 3 separate movies and hope and pray to whatever God you worship that they somehow fit cohesively together. These movies don't. They have retconned their own canon. They have retconned their comic book canon and their novel canon. They destroyed a cohesive universe, calling it Legends. And yes, there were contradictions in those ones too. But then but people could get over that because they found that the contradictions were better improvements. That's not the case with Disney. You have that comic that takes place, Barnes & Nobles has a bunch of Legends stuff now, like one day it was, bam, they're sitting on the shelves next to DC and Marvel. Yeah. And hell, if there was a Barnes & Noble close to me, I'd get a bunch of them. I'd get a bunch of the books. Or I just make sure that my brother Matt lets me borrow all of them, because my brother Matt has all the novels, or the Legends novels, before they were Legends. He has all of them that it doesn't say Legends on them. Now, again, basically, where was I? I just lost my train of thought. Damn it, where was I before Riot's words? Oh, damn it. Oh, yes, contradiction. Basically, there was a comic that takes place before Episode 7 where Kylo Ren kills a Zillo Beast. And a clone trooper who was still alive and using his old Stormtrooper armor, not the First Order stuff, it basically said, even Lord Vader fought one of these and he couldn't beat it. And it's not a competition and whatnot. Well, here's the thing, folks. Everybody knows in Episode 7 that Kylo has a fascination with Vader and that he's trying to be stronger than him. Well, at the end of that comic, he kills the Zilla Beast, carves his way out, which should be impossible because, well, the lightsabers couldn't pierce him. But the clone looks to Kylo and says, "You know how I said it wasn't a competition? You won." And it shows that Kylo Ren was very happy, basically. He was elated. Well, there's just one problem with that. If that was the case, that he has been, or that he was stronger than Vader, why is he still afraid in episode 7 that he won't be as strong as Darth Vader? Honestly. You have the contradictions of the original trilogy. How you doing, Dwayne? EU books live on even in the if the mouse stepped in or stepped on Star Wars. Yes. My biggest issue is how they basically trivialized the training needed to use the Force with the last trilogy. Yeah. Are you talking about the Disney trilogy, Dwayne? Because I think that's what you mean by it. Now, if it's the Disney trilogy you're talking about, because the training in, or they showed the training and whatnot in episodes 1, 2, and 3. Why is this there? Yeah, you're talking about, okay, you're talking about the, yeah, you're talking about the Disney trilogy. And you're absolutely right. They basically said she read, or basically, she's as powerful as she is because she read some magical books and they made her all powerful. Another contradiction that Disney's fucking book here. Yeah, folks, I actually tortured myself reading The Rise of Skywalker. Palpatine transferred his consciousness as he's fallen down the shaft. That makes no logical sense. That would have to change the movie of episode 6. When you separate life from a body, whatever action they are committing is ceased. Meaning, if Palpatine threw his spirit out of his body, then the body would stop screaming and stop using Force lightning. And also, if you are focusing on throwing your conscience out of your own body, you would not be screaming and using Force lightning. All the way down to when you hit the core and you blow up. So I don't like to pick fights with people and don't really like people who do to try and validate their views on certain things, then play victim. That's probably my biggest problem with Lucasfilm. Riot, God bless you, young lady. God bless you. You see, folks, I'm not just seeing that in Lucasfilm. What she just said down here. I'm not just seeing that in Lucasfilm. I'm seeing that in our own goddamn community. But that's a separate issue from today's video. Nobody's immune to that, right? But yeah, shit, I've done that too in the past. But I've actually strove not to in the future and today. But yes, they love to play victim when people call them out for their flawed logic. As did, what's her name? Ray Carson. Yeah. You see, I told her I read the book. and it was not good. But that's not her fault because she was given content that was extremely flawed. Now, somebody said, why'd you say that? You don't need to say that, and yada, yada, yada. Well, the thing is, I felt, because I'm a reviewer, I should be able to say that. And you would think that Ray Carson would be able to handle that kind of criticism. I mean, she is supposed to be a professional author and all. But instead of that, she blocked me. And it just goes to show that she can't handle the criticism needed to be a professional employee of Lucasfilm. But back to the whole Sam Witwer thing. Everybody knows, again, if you guys are just joining in, Sam Witwer basically said, you got to be willing to accept some bad content in order for content to continue. That's a paraphrase, folks. But that's like asking somebody to live with cancer because other people will be able to continue your legacy even though you're dying. You see, I don't agree with that. It's called you get the cancer cut out of you. You basically do what you need to in order to continue your legacy and respect the previous person's ownership of it. Now, the thing that they did, again, I'm going to recap, folks, they didn't plan. They didn't plan these movies out, and they should have. And because they didn't plan, these movies did not do well. Now, people will say, well, they did well financially. They may have done well financially, but does it really matter? Well, to them it does. They made the money even though they lost the fans. Now, there are going to be the normie fans out there that love these movies simply because they're Star Wars. If they love Star Wars because it's Star Wars, you know what? I'm just being honest, folks. I'll take a piss in a jar, I'll slap the fucking Star Wars logo on it, and I'll say this came from a bantha. Let's see how well, or let's see how much these people actually believe that shit. That's, to me, is what liking Star Wars because it's Star Wars is about. You are a blind consumer. Now, if you like the movies, if you subjectively like the movies, but you can admit that they're flawed as fuck, I will respect you a lot more than I will respect a blind fan. If you like the movies, at least have the self-respect to admit that they make no sense. Otherwise, if you're saying that they're visual perfection and all that shit, when objectively they are not, I have no respect for your observational skills. Even the Mandalorian siege in the end of Clone Wars is severely flawed when you are tying it into episode 3. And that was a fellow fan of something. And that was a fellow fan of something I like. So yeah, it ain't just corporations. Exactly. Declining sales, I figure they left to be on the table. 2 plus B on the table. Chances are they probably did, Jeff. But as I was saying, what was I saying? Having a hard time focusing today, folks. But, crap. Blind fans and whatnot, I think it was. If you guys are going to be blind fans, fine. Just have the respect to admit when something's flawed. Because even if it's something you love that is flawed, you can still like it subjectively. If you like it subjectively, I have no problem. I think I've already said all this. It's just that if you're going to defend it and say that it's a visual masterpiece, don't bother. People are not going to believe you. And people are going to call you out. And then, because your feelings are so sensitive, you're going to whine, you're going to play victim, and you're going to call anybody who disagrees with you an istophobe, or an ist or ism, or whatever. And I think that that is the dumbest shit you could ever do. It's called, you need to grow up. You need to grow a backbone. And you need to stop being upset over every little thing. And that even goes for the fans like us. We can be upset with Star Wars. We could voice our outrage. That is our God-given right. But we also got to accept that it's going to fall on deaf ears. Now, for the most part, it hasn't, because there are those in Lucasfilm who actually do care. But if you look at things, that's where I was talking about, the contradictions of the Siege of Mandalore. Sorry, I just remembered, folks. I just had to go through what I was talking about first in order to continue talking about it. But anyway, the Siege of Mandalore. If you watch episode 3 and you pay close attention to certain details, like the belly of Padme Amidala when Anakin first comes back to Coruscant, it's not as pronounced, even though she is wearing flowing robes. She's 6 months pregnant, basically. Or she is around just pregnant enough to show a bump. And it's later that, I think it is like 6 months, could be 7 or 8 months, but all I know is that it was weeks. It took place, the episode 3 spanned weeks, if I remember correctly. It spanned weeks, yeah. Clone Wars, Siege of Mandalore with Ahsoka and whatnot spanned 2 freaking days. So in 2 days, Anakin has returned or killed Count Dooku, returned to Coruscant to his loving wife, got seduced to the dark side. You cannot dislike something and still appreciate some aspects of it. For example, I don't like Attack on Titan. The characters are extremely unlikable, yet the fight animation is amazing. Exactly. That is being able to objectively look at something and also admit that it's flawed, even though you subjectively like it. But going back to this Clone Wars thing, I do like the Clone Wars for what it is. It's an animation, or it's a different take. Now, is it flawed? Hell freaking yes. The only thing I do not like is how they portrayed the Mandalorians. Hold on. I will fight tooth and nail on that. That is why, if you guys pay attention to my live stream on Friday night, I'm saying it's the EU Mandalorians, not this pussified pacifist version of the Mandalorians in Clone Wars. That is the one thing I will fight tooth and nail against the creator, George Lucas, on. Jango Fett was a Mandalorian. He was the Mandalore. He had Cal Skirata and other Mandalorians train the clone troopers and commandos. And yet later on he says they were never, or then with the whole Clone Wars, he says, well, they're not real Mandalorians. Jango Fett, he was not a Mandalorian. I'm sorry, but why did you sign off and accept those books if he was not really a Mandalorian, Lucas? So yes, I do not like how they portrayed the Mandalorians and cut the Fetts. The Fets are some of my favorite characters. I mean, hell, even Arlene Fett was pretty badass. Now, but basically, to conclude the whole thing that I originally started the stream on, Sam Witwer, if you want to continue a legacy, do it respectfully, and you won't have to worry about bad content because people will eventually like the content. They'll come around eventually on it because they respected fans and what they wanted to see. They learned this too late, and they tried using nostalgia to push this shit. It didn't work, and now the fan base of Star Wars is irreparably divided. You're not going to reunite fans because you killed most of their respect for you. How you doing, Scotty? Good to see you, man. The only way that you are going to bring many of the fans back to the table is if you get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. And I mean before her contract is up. You also do not allow David Filoni to own or to run Lucasfilm. I used to be in Filoni's camp, folks. I used to be on Filoni's bandwagon. But I jumped off after a while because I realized he may have had an essential role in the identity politics that is in the Disney trilogy. I don't like that. I don't like anything that has real world politics in it unless it is extremely subtle. Even the identity politics, if it is subtle and makes no more than a little ripple, I can tolerate it. But if it is too overt, then I have no problem, or then that is where I do have a problem with it. Now I am going to start to diverge into other stuff, so folks, we are going to stop with the Sam Witwer stuff and continue on to a different thing. Now, a good example of non-overt identity politics is last night's episode of The Flash, where Hartley Rathaway, known as the Pied Piper, he turns out he was gay, and his lover was his right-hand man in his little group of bad guys that the Flash stopped. They didn't shove it in your face, the fact that he was gay. They had a couple of scenes that shown that he was gay. That was it. They weren't saying, I'm gay, 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 I'm gay. They didn't do that. They did that in The Arrow, where almost every freaking episode with Mr. Terrific is, I'm gay, I'm a gay guy, I'm a gay black guy, I'm a gay this guy, I'm a gay that guy. That's all they ever did in Arrow when Mr. Terrific came in. And may have. The keyword may, so until Filoni comes out and says he put woke over saturation of politics in Star Wars, then I choose to take it with a grain of salt. Thing is, Riot Kitty, he was actually in, we got the statements directly from Filoni's mouth that he wanted to make it a matriarchal woman female-centric shit in the Disney trilogy. They actually did do that. That was reported on. So when I say may have, that's kind of me making a mistake. He actually did. He was the one that actually got or suggested that Leia is the one that trains Rey instead of Luke, because we need a more matriarchy thing to fix Star Wars because females are healing and yada yada. It's like, Men can also do that. Men can be healers. Men can train. What is wrong with Luke training Rey? I mean, Luke was the Jedi. Leia was a Jedi who quit. I'm just saying. But yes, right, they actually did confirm it through David Filoni's own damn words. Now, one of the things I have been never mind about that. Well, basically, I have nothing really much more to discuss on this. We've been going for almost 41 minutes. So I guess I am actually going to start wrapping it up here. I basically said what I needed to say and whatnot, but point being is that, yes, Witwer, I did not agree with him. Oh, well, that's dumb. Like, there's clone medics. Exactly. Those were all dudes. It wasn't a bad idea. It was simply poorly written. You're damn right, Riot. Now, anyway, folks, I am going to actually start wrapping it up here. So stay tuned for Friday night. I have the versus stream with the Xenomorph army, different species. You're going to have, you know what? I will give you a, there we go. I will give you a idea of what to look forward to. You see, the Xenomorph army that is going to be facing the clones is not just going to be the ones that you saw in the movies. There are several different xenomorph types, or xenomorphs. And basically, yes, you are going to have the warrior aliens, the rigid head or the rigid heads. You're going to have the Praetorian, or you're going to have the ones, these are the ones that you don't know about. Praetorians. If you have played AVP, the Xbox 360 game, where you can play Colonial Marines, Predators, or Alien, you know what the Praetorians are. They're like a queen, but they're warrior caste. They have a crest like the warrior, or like the queen does, but they are bigger than the warriors. How you doing, Superior Hero Reviews? You're a new one, I believe. Thank you for stopping in. I'm just wrapping up, but I'm giving everybody a taste of what's to come on Friday. You have the boiler aliens. These are kamikaze aliens, basically. They are mutated, or they're mutated somewhat. They have a kamikaze attack in which they explode their body in a rain of acid. This was in the Colonial Marines game. If you're going to develop character with a particular orientation, at least write it out well and not just throw it out in their faces and expect us to just accept that. Yeah, exactly. Mandalorians would be an awesome movie. Oh, indeed it would. And I'm looking forward to Friday night's versus stream. God, man, I am just so out of it right today. We got the Crusher, which is a quadruped with a bulletproof cranial shield that's basically tank-like. Size of a Praetorian, it can run faster, and it's like a battering ram. So it's like a it's on all fours, has a queen crested head, but it uses it to ram through things. I gotta go get ready for the day. Bye bye, Orange Hat and chat. Thank you, right? You take it easy. We got the Ravager, which is a purely offensive alien. It doesn't go out to harvest, doesn't go out to drag people back to the nest. It goes out strictly to search and destroy. We're also going to have some Predaliens and acid spitters and whatnot. So yeah, it's not just going to be the drones going after the Mandalorians. That would be way too easy for the Mandalorians. And we are going to have a queen in this battle too. A queen to run the hive, basically. So yeah. And we're going to have the EU Mandalorians, like Boba Fett, Braylor, and all the rest. the EU Mandalorians, folks, not this Mandalorian pacifism shit that was from the Clone Wars, and not these Mandalorians that were in The Mandalorian. Decepticon King, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. Did you know DC's Harley Quinn is over on Hulu? I don't have Hulu, so no. I have Vudu, and I have Movies Anywhere, and I have Amazon Prime. And that's good enough for me right now. But yeah, folks, that's what you can look forward to in the Versus stream coming out this Friday night. It's going to be a live stream. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have Ryan Kinnell from RK Outpost. We're going to have OG Star Wars, the Lore Queen, I call her. We're going to have Darth Annihilus. And we're going to have the Ambassador, all discussing this. There is room for one more. And if you guys want in to that specific slot, let me know on Twitter. You can DM me, or you can send me a tweet on Twitter to let me know that you're interested in being in the final slot. So yeah, I'd like to have a full panel for it. And also, if you guys are available on the 22nd of May, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, we're going to have the bigger versus stream. It's going to be Darth Sidious versus Darth Vitiate. The Sith Emperors are going to duke it out in that one, folks. And we might have Lethal Lightning. Might is the key word. Anyway, folks, that's going to wrap up this stream. You all are amazing, beautiful people. Thank you, Decepticon King. Thank you, Scotty, Multi-Minded Scotty, Riot Kitty, Jeff B. Who else did we have? Dwayne Hall and Brian the Observer. Thank you all for stopping in. You guys are amazing and beautiful people. And I want to thank each and every one of my 396 subscribers for supporting my channel however you are able. You guys are all awesome. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing. You guys have helped me get the confidence to continue doing this, and I look forward to even more subscribers. So please share my content out as much as you can. I'm trying to get 500. If I get to 500, if I get to 500 subscribers before the end of May, if I get that far before the end of May, I'll whip this hat off on stream and show you exactly why I wear the hat. So if you guys can get me to 500 subscribers, help me get to 500 subscribers by the end of May, you will see an Orange Hat Reviews video or live stream even where I whip the hat off and show you just why I wear the hat. Anyway, folks, that is going to be the video. If you're catching it on the replay, you all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments of any of the topics we have discussed today. Anyway, folks, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.